What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am the Relentless Shad Walters, and this is the athlete's point of view. So, I did my first podcast on Thursday, and I had a lot of fun. Honestly, I was talking about things that are really personal and things that I don't talk about very often, and I got out of my comfort zone and actually really, really enjoyed that. It felt good to talk about those things, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to do this. This is it's been fun already, so I'm excited to see what the future could bring. So I mean, as far as what I wanted to talk about today, we got a couple of topics. There's a lot of things going on in the MMA world. Um, I mean, big things. Like John Jones is coming back. Francis isn't gone. It was gone. Jake Paul went to the PFL. Um, there's a lot of big things that are going on. So we'll get into a little bit of that. I also wanted to touch on maybe some weight cutting and some nutrition today too. So yeah. So I first of all I kind of wanted to talk about the schedule and um, as far as the schedule of the stream, the podcast. I don't know. I think I'm thinking about doing 1 to 2 podcasts a week. It's too early to tell, but like I said, I really enjoyed the first one, so um, I want to be consistent and get a lot of content out. So hopefully you guys will stick around and subscribe if you um, have been enjoying the content. So first of all, over the weekend, Sean Strickland and Imabov, and that was a banger. Those guys, they put it all out there. I think Sean Strickland, he had something to prove this time, and it's apparent. Like when his striking was much different, it's much more aggressive this time versus Imavov. He was really pissed about losing to Cannonier. He believed like he was being a super tactician, in there. So, and I mean, I can see that as well. He didn't get hit too often. I mean, he shelled up very well against Cannonier, but he wasn't aggressive enough. So that's the thing is judges might see, even if they're throwing punches, they don't even have to land, but they are being aggressive. They're controlling the cage. They are attempting to hurt you. The aggressiveness, it plays a factor in the judge's decision. I feel like I've gotten really lucky with one of my fights as well, which what happened was he was a D1 wrestler, and his name is Bill Proknewski. The guy he was just so strong. I could not get him off me. He was like glue. But he was so stuck to me that he couldn't get any offense off. But I could get some offense off while on my back. So the judges seen that, luckily. I mean, thank God, because he had like 6 out of 9 minutes of control time. But he did almost nothing with those 6 minutes. And yeah, I'm super grateful for the judges seeing that I was much more active. And I had 2 knockdowns as well, I believe. I don't know if one of them was counted, but yeah. So that was one of the times where I got blessed by the judges. That doesn't happen that often. But in Strickland's case, he wasn't getting hit. He was being very defensive, and he had some good offense as well. But that wasn't enough for the judges to see that he took it over Cannonier. So, in all respect to Cannonier, I love Cannonier too. But yeah, Strickland and Imavov, man, talk about 2 really good strikers. I mean, these guys are the highest of level of strikers, and Imavov was in there the entire fight. Strickland couldn't put him away, and Imavov was landing his own shots, like very nice combinations. It was a 5 round war, man. That was definitely, and I think it definitely brought something out of Sean Strickland because he had something to prove. He kind of had a chip on his shoulder. He needed to go out there and show him what he really does. And I think when Strickland gets aggressive and gets in his zone with his striking, I mean, he's one of the best strikers, especially in the middleweight division. I don't know if he's Israel Adesanya level, but hey, I mean, he's definitely up there. I could see him. Well, Pereira knocked him out, so but that's when he got a little overzealous, and maybe that's why he fought the way against Cannonier. I mean, when you're in there, it's so difficult to, you know, I mean, they have a lot more experience than I do, but from my experience, trying to keep it together is, that's almost more important than the preparation. Just your mental, the way that you go into that fight mentally is everything. Like literally, you could be in better shape, you could be more skilled, but if you are not there mentally, then you're probably not going to win. You've got to be there 100%, mind, body, and spirit. So yeah, Strickland definitely, he deserved that W, and I hear he got paid a lot of money for it, so good for him. I don't know if he could beat Israel Adesanya though, which that could be a potential matchup coming up soon. I think it'd be a good fight. It would definitely be interesting if Strickland went about it in the way that he fought Cannonier, which he might have to, but if he brings it to Izzy, he might get knocked out too. So that's a hard one to gauge, but so yeah, that happened over the weekend, and there was Dan Ige. Dan Ige had a sick knockout, 50K Ige. Man, he's a savage. Really glad to see him back in the win column. Let's see. I think his name is Abdul Razak Hassan Al Hassan. He had a really nice knockout last night as well. So that was the first card of the year, I believe. But I'm looking forward to the next one, which is who is it? Brandon Moreno and Figueiredo. Ooh, it's my weight class, so I'm super excited to see how that goes. Yeah, and big breaking news: Francis Ngannou leaves the UFC. Dana White offers him more money than any heavyweight would have ever made, and he declines it. I mean, talk about knowing your worth. I mean, I know Francis Ngannou has been kind of struggling as far as a relationship with the UFC for a while now, and I mean, in all honesty, he deserves as much money as he can possibly make, because he's like the Tyson of MMA in 2023. Like, I mean, there's not an MMA fan that does not want to see Francis Ngannou fight, because they know what can happen. So it's pretty crazy. I'm thinking he's gonna go to the PFL. There was a picture of Francis with his family, and one of them was wearing a PFL shirt, ironically. So I think that was a little bit of a foreshadowing from Francis. But I don't know if there's anybody in the PFL that's going to be able to stop him. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at the PFL rankings and stuff, because I don't know. I don't even know if John Jones could stop Francis Ngannou. I mean, who doesn't want to see that fight? That's the super unfortunate thing that, of course, John Jones is coming back. 2023, Francis Ngannou leaves. I mean, talk about like disappointing, because that's probably one of the biggest fights in MMA history, is John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. I don't know anybody who wouldn't pay to see that. But yeah, I don't know how it's gonna go in the PFL. Francis Ngannou might win $1 million for all I know, because I don't know if there's anybody on his level there. But and then who also is joining Francis Ngannou? Possibly. Don't know that for sure. Don't quote me. Jake Paul. Jake Paul to the PFL. That's exciting. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what it's gonna come of it, but apparently Jake Paul has been training MMA for over a year now. So, well, he's been training kicks and MMA, I guess you could say. But I seen his kicking technique. It's pretty solid. It's not. It's not bad. It's not terrible. He's turning the hips over and, but there was only a short clip, so we don't know really what he knows and what he's learned in the past year because, I mean, with as dedicated of an athlete that Jake Paul is, I could, and he was a wrestler in high school, so I can see Jake Paul actually doing something here in the PFL. I could see him winning his first fight easily. Easily. Oh, Tom Flynn Alabaugh, thank you, man. Thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome to the channel, dude. If you're still here, I really appreciate you stopping by and listening. But yeah, so Jake Paul, PFL. I think he's gonna be. I think he's got a shot. Really do. I think what weight class would he be in? I'm thinking he would be middleweight. Is that middleweight? Yeah, I'm thinking he'd be a middleweight, which, you know, he would probably be a pretty big middleweight as well. The guy's got skills. Honestly, don't know what the fuck that was. Sorry, that was a loud bang. But he's got some skills, and I don't know what could come of it. So it's exciting to think about. And so then we got Jones. John Jones is coming back to fight Cyril Gane, March 4th. I mean, what a fight. What a fight. That is going to be so good because Cyril Gane, the most technical, one of the most technical heavyweights. John Jones, one of the most technical, creative light heavyweights of all time, coming up to heavyweight. This is big. I mean, I'm super interested. I think every MMA fan in the world is interested in seeing John Jones fight again. There's a lot of time off, but he hasn't, like, quit training ever. I don't think he stopped training at all. So there's been a lot of time off. Ring rust, I feel like it can be a thing, but I think that's more of a mental game where you can overcome ring rust if you are in the right mental place. So Cyril Gane, though, I mean, the guy is super technical. He's super defensive. I mean, he has extremely good defensive techniques. It's gonna be a matchup for the ages because that's gonna be an all-out technical battle, man. I know it is. It's but I don't see Cyril Gane knocking out John Jones. I don't see it. Cyril Gane couldn't. He couldn't barely knock out Tai Tuivasa, and Tuivasa is he kind of throws with reckless abandonment sometimes, and so John Jones is not like that in any sense, and so it's gonna be interesting to see how Cyril goes about it because John Jones, I mean, Francis Ngannou beat Cyril using his wrestling. John Jones is an elite wrestler. I mean, can you imagine him at heavyweight taking these guys down? He's going to be more agile. But Cyril Gane is an athletic specimen, though. So we'll see. I feel like Cyril might be a little bit stronger than Jones, maybe. But then again, who knows in what way that John Jones put that weight on. It could be all muscle. It seemed like he took a lot of time lifting weights, getting heavy the right way, rather than just eating himself big. And so he could be potentially very, very strong. And his striking, his creativity is just next level. I think that he's going to present a lot of problems that Cyril has never had to deal with. I mean, Cyril's dealt with Francis Ngannou's power, but the accuracy difference, I feel like John Jones is much more accurate than Francis Ngannou is. I don't know if we can look up those stats, but um, I think Cyril's gonna have to worry about a lot more different angles, not just the wrestling. I mean, the wrestling. If John's smart, he'd wrestle him, but we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how he feels coming up to heavyweight. Hopefully, he's got a good gas tank because, I wish the best for Jones. He's made some stupid decisions. Like, I mean, talk about probably the most controversial athlete in MMA of all time, next to Conor McGregor, and but I think Jones has had a little bit worse of a reputation, so I'm super excited to see him come back. I want him to continue to reign. To be honest, how amazing would it be to see him like take 2 years off, 3 years? I don't know how long he's been out, but take all that time off, come back and become champion again. Um, he's just so talented that he could fucking do it too. Like, that's the crazy thing. So, March 4th, Jones versus Cyril Gane. Super interesting. I bet you that's going to sell a lot of fucking pay-per-views. um, some other things that happened this weekend too. Umar Nurmagomedov. Oh my god, that guy. Talk about a Khabib who can strike. That is Umar, his little brother. Like, the dude is a monster. He I think his name was Raoni Barcelos. And the guy's he was definitely a nasty striker, super nasty striker, and Umar ends up knocking him out. He goes for a flying knee, misses the knee by like an inch, comes down with a left hook and just flatlines him. And that I was super impressed by that because I did not know that Khabib's brother was like this. Like, his striking is so much more fluent than Khabib's. Khabib, like, he doesn't not have striking, but he's very awkward. But Umar, you can tell he really gets into his flow state when he is in there on his feet. And I don't even know what his wrestling looks like. I think he submitted his last guy. I'm not sure, but the guy is a savage, and he is coming up. He is that's bantamweight. So that's one of my weight classes too. So like, that's a scary thing. That's a scary man, dude. Super impressed with him. Go check out that highlight. That is pretty good. Something else that happened this weekend was KSI knocked out FaZe Rug. I don't know, one of the FaZe faggots. KSI though, he knocked the dude out in like almost a Taekwondo karate style blitz, and it was impressive. I didn't know that KSI had like skills like that, because what he did definitely took some fluidity in his footwork and his striking, and you can tell that he drilled that exactly what he did and knocked the guy out. Like, he definitely drilled it. And it was perfect, but it reminded me of like Raymond Daniels in the way that he blitzes in. So KSI is actually coming up. It's actually crazy because all these fucking YouTubers, they're actually becoming legitimate good athletes, you know? I mean, they've got all the money and the time and the resources to do this, so it's like kind of like it makes sense if they really applied themselves like Jake Paul does. So but it's just crazy to see them coming into themselves as athletes. Like KSI, I didn't know he was actually nice like that. I did not know he had some fucking hands like that. I knew he like fought some. He won his other fights, but like, I didn't think it was anything special, but that was actually pretty sick what he did this weekend. So, let's see. Anything else happened this weekend? Let's see. Umar. Somebody that I want to see fight soon is Dariush, Benil Dariush. That guy, he's fun, and I think he might be one of the guys that could actually present a challenge to Islam Makhachev, like because of his different style, his willingness to just he's got heart for days, man. The guy is he's got heart out of this world. So I think it would be super interesting to watch those two go at it. But Volk and Islam, Alexander Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, that's coming up. I can't wait to see that too because it's gonna be super interesting. Volkanovski's very short. He's same height as me, 5'6", and at 155 pounds though, I I don't see Islam being so much stronger than Volkanovski because of he came down in weight, but um, I think there might be levels to the grappling. And Volkanovski is obviously more known as a striker, not sleeping on his ground game by any means, but the it's different. You get in there with the Dagestanis and like it's different. That's it's a different kind of mauling. It's not a Brian Ortega guillotine. It's it's Khabib and Islam Nurmagomedov that smash, not Islam Nurmagomedov, but Khabib Nurmagomedov, like fucking uh, father's plan, father's plan. That's what it is. You know, father's plan. It's hard. It's seemingly unstoppable at this point, but like, I I don't. I'm not a hater, but like I would like to see somebody really give them a challenge. You know, I would love to see Volkanovski really give Islam a big challenge. And I think he does. I think because you can't just take down somebody that's shorter than you. It's some people know this. If you're a fighter, you usually know this. But if you're shorter than somebody, it's harder for you to shoot on them. It's harder for you to get from here to there because they're shorter, and it's easier for them to get from there to there because they are closer to the ground. So you can drop your hips. You drop your hips as a shorter person. They gotta shoot low in order to get to that takedown. But the chain wrestling of Islam Makhachev, I mean, it's not going to stop. He's not going to stop at the first takedown. It's so he's most likely he'd probably shoot, get him against the cage, takedown, submit. I don't know if it's gonna go that easily. Volkanovski, he's a savage, man. He's got heart for days. One of the greatest featherweights of all time. Granted, I am a much more of a Max Holloway fan. Max Holloway is one of my favorites. But I just don't see Volkanovski having the answer for Islam's grappling. He could definitely stand a chance in the striking, but I don't see Volkanovski knocking Islam out either. Islam's been knocked out one time in his career, but Volkanovski's not necessarily known for that one punch knockout power. So he's most likely going to fight him to a decision, and I think Islam pulls it out. So we'll have to see how it goes. That's a super exciting matchup. But I mean, if Volkanovski can pull that off, he would definitely be cemented as one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time. And if he beats Islam, what if he goes down to 35 and fights Henry Cejudo, beats Henry Cejudo? I mean, that would be legendary, absolutely legendary. And I think that's what he should try to do. I mean, if he beats Islam, he should call out Henry Cejudo. And I think Henry might bite on that. He's all about the legacy, man. He's all about the gold. I think I mean, is anybody even talking about that? Is anybody talking about the possibility of Volkanovski versus Henry Cejudo, and Volkanovski as a double champ fighting Henry Cejudo going for triple champ? Well, Henry's not the champion anymore, but you know what I'm saying. Henry is talking about coming back, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna fanboy a little bit here, but the last fight that I had was at LFA in Arizona, and Henry Cejudo was there. It's pretty crazy because I'm starting to move my way up the ranks and starting to see all these big faces and the big names. I only had one cornerman, so which is Shane Adams. He's my coach. He's the only guy I had out there. Well, in the blue corner, we were warming up and everything, and one of the other guys fighting in there was from AKA, where Khabib and DC are from, and that guy actually cornered me, which it didn't end up helping because the fight was a fucking mess, but it's insane that he came to corner me, a guy from AKA. That's like how connected the fight community is, and I fucking love it. It's crazy that I can go to fight at an LFA event and one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time is there. And actually, he probably was congratulating my opponent, so that's unfortunate. So yeah, Volkanovski and Islam. I think Islam's gonna end up taking that one. But super fun to talk about the possibilities if Volkanovski wins. I would shit my pants. Somebody else I wanted to talk about though too was Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters of all time because his boxing, his heart, he is one of the best lightweights of all time. But the question is, like, what the fuck does he do now? Where, like, he's kind of at in a position where it's like he's beaten everybody except for Khabib and Charles. Khabib isn't there anymore. Charles is there, but now Islam's there, which is like a Khabib. It's like a mini Khabib. Well, they're actually same size. I don't know. Khabib is like bigger. I don't know. But so he's kind of in a sticky situation. I mean, I want to see Dustin Poirier fight again soon, but who the hell is he gonna fight? A rematch against Oliveira? I don't know if that carries enough weight to it, but he might want to get that L back. So that would be a really good one to see run back, because Dustin Poirier is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but we don't see it very often. I would like to. I would hope that Dustin has been working on his grappling even more since losing to Oliveira, losing to Khabib. But the guy is so exciting. I love watching Dustin Poirier fight. He's a southpaw. I'm a southpaw. His boxing is crisp as ever, and he knows how to fucking dig deep and get in a fucking war, and I love it. And so hopefully we see him back in the octagon soon. Gervonta Davis, I believe he fought again this weekend as well. So Gervonta Davis just knocked his opponent out, and which, I mean, are we surprised at this point? Gervonta Davis is such a savage, man. I love him. And he's talking about he would do MMA. Honestly, please, Gervonta, tank. Don't do it. Don't come to MMA. This is not a street fight. You talk about picking each other up and slamming each other in the streets. Like, I actually know. I know, like, the mindset. I used to kick it with people that used to, like, think in that same way, and that's not how it goes. I'm sorry to say, but that's not how MMA works. So especially in his weight class. What is he? 132 pounds? Like, nothing but killers. nothing but killer grapplers. Like, imagine putting him in there with a TJ Dillashaw. He's going to dump him on his head and ground and pound him. But Gervonta Davis just knocked his opponent out. I mean, but like I said, are we surprised anymore? But coming up, are they ever going to fight Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia? Are they ever going to fucking fight? Like, I swear they're like, oh yeah, it's getting lined, it's getting booked. Nope, Gervonta Davis is fighting some guy that nobody knows. Uh, like, I didn't even know he was fighting again. Like, boxing is so weird. It's like they will promote these fights and then not make them. So I want to see Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia go at it. I think that one's so hard to predict too, because Ryan Garcia, when Campbell knocked him down, that was a nasty knockdown, and Ryan Garcia got up and finished him with a liver shot. I mean, talk about a savage. Liver shots are the most satisfying thing in the world. I love body shots, but for him to do that, I mean, when he got knocked down, his arm was behind his back. He was like face down. That was a lot of adversity to come back from. So, but Gervonta Tank Davis has that type of power where you don't get up from. You most likely will not get up if he hits you clean enough. So, we're gonna have to. I mean, I think Garcia is gonna be faster. Obviously, Tank is gonna have more power, but it's so interesting to think about, like, how each of them are gonna go about the fight. I mean, obviously, I think Garcia is gonna be very jab heavy. Gervonta Davis is probably gonna try to counter the jab. He's gonna pressure. Garcia is gonna be moving, jabbing, stick and move. Like, I think Garcia has the speed advantage. Tank has the power advantage. But as far as a prediction goes, I think Davis gets it done, only because I don't think he's going to get knocked out by Garcia. I think he's going to be super patient, like he usually is. Be super patient, wait, counter, and once he lands that one shot, it's over. Garcia probably won't get back up. So, so my prediction for that one, I think I'm going to go with Gervonta Davis. Yeah, so, as far as what else we got to talk about, I was going to talk about some nutrition, maybe some meal prepping, weight cutting, and maybe tell a couple of stories. So, let's talk about weight cutting. This is something that is extremely controversial in some parts of the MMA community, because, let me think. When you weight cut, you deplete yourself so much that you're technically not the same fighter. You're not the same person when you weight cut, high weight cuts. You know, in one championship, they do hydration tests and rehydration tests, I believe. They do some extensive testing to make sure that you're fighting at your weight class. And you know, for my pro debut, it's gonna have to be at 125 pounds. I walk around at about 145 to 148. Usually, I'm pretty hydrated, so obviously, probably 8 pounds of that is probably water. Just on a given day, without water loading or anything. So that would be 14 pounds. 126, you get a 1 pound allowance. 14 pounds. That I have to cut after, no, well, yeah, 14 pounds after the 8, actually. So 22 pounds. And that's on the high end. That's on the high end. I get, when I start water loading, I get up closer to 150, but uh, it's an extremely hard weight weight cut. Um, and something like I wanted to talk about, like, because it's something that I've experienced myself, that, and it's crazy because I mean, I feel like more fighters should talk about it because it might make weight cutting less of a thing, because you when you have to weight cut and you are in fight camp and doing all these things, you develop an eating disorder. I'm not even going to debate you might develop a eating disorder. No, you definitely develop an eating disorder. And I've definitely struggled with it a lot in the past. It's weird because, like, one of the cycles that I seem to go through is when I'm at work, I either won't eat or I'll be perfect on my diet. I'll drink lots of water, and when I get off of work or I finish training, I crave so hard, so much, and it's it's crazy because, like, afterwards you sometimes I've gotten past the point where, like, I gorge myself because I used to not eat anything all day long, and then my discipline would break, and I would gorge myself, and just to the point of, like, you can barely move because you're so uncomfortably full, and I've went through, and I don't think that's a very healthy cycle. I think it's kind of bad for your body because you're, like, putting yourself into starvation mode, and then you're gorging yourself, and then you're putting yourself in starvation mode again, and it's like it's a vicious cycle. Um, Something that, like, I'm working on trying to do, leading into the next one, because it's going to be at 125 pounds. I know it's going to be hard for me, and that is trying to disassociate satisfaction with eating, right? And that is so hard, especially living in America. I mean, everybody knows we have the worst diet. Everybody knows. There is temptation around every corner when it comes to food. And I struggle with it. Um, Not necessarily like eating out, but I struggle with it as far as um, when I go home. Like I said, I will do so well all day long, go home at the end of the day, and I want to gorge myself. I want to just. And you always feel like shit afterwards. Always feel like shit afterwards. And that's the thing. That's how you should know that these foods are sending negative signals to your brain and to your gut. They say your gut is your second brain. And so when you feed it all this bullshit, it's going to have negative effects. And it definitely does. Like, I mean, this past week, because I just fought a little over a week ago, and it's like I've been eating whatever I want. It's terrible. Like, every time I do that, like, I'll end up after a fight. I mean, cuz what fighter doesn't do that? After weight cuts, after weigh-ins and everything, you go and eat whatever the fuck you want. I mean, as far as me, the day of the fight, I don't eat like shit, but afterwards, yeah, you eat whatever the fuck you want. And it it's crazy because you notice the difference in your body right away. Me, it's my digestive system. If I start eating like that, my stomach is so messed up, and but I embrace that because I know I'm clearing my system out, right? So, like, after I have, like, a day of really bad eating, the next day I will drink a ton of water and just shit a lot, and flush all of that out of my system. So um it's crazy because, like I said, you develop a eating disorder. It's not a healthy way of looking at food. a lot of the times it's super hard to um, only eat for performance when you are limiting calories, right? So imagine like you're already barely eating, and then you gotta eat this fucking chicken and rice every day. You know what I'm saying? So it's very hard to like disassociate that satisfaction with eating, and it's something that I'm trying to work on. And it's definitely helped learning how to cook better. Um, my girlfriend and I, we do a meal prepping service, a small meal prepping service, healthy. Um, we haven't done it in a couple months, but I mentioned that in the last podcast. But we're gonna be picking it back up soon, and it it's good for us because we have learned so much, and we know how to cook so many different good tasting things. So like I don't struggle as much with the eating anymore because I know how to cook healthy, delicious, simple shit. You know, the problem with nutrition is that everybody kind of overcomplicates it. And I did at first when I first started too. I overcomplicated the hell out of it, and then looking back at it now, it's like, well, I kind of started off doing the right thing, which was eating chicken and rice. Granted, brown rice is much better than white rice for you, but you know, it's not as complicated as people make it to be. The problem is all of the refined carbohydrates that are in the American diet. If you're having trouble losing weight, you need to look at the refined carbohydrates in your diet, which is white flour, bread, you know, all of those things that aren't like you really shouldn't eat carbs unless it's like or like white flour or anything like that. Like it's so bad for you. And but if you eat the good carbs like brown rice, whole grains, your body will actually burn fat at a higher rate. You will burn more um, calories when you eat a complex carbohydrate diet. And it's not even hard to figure out like complex carbohydrates. Yeah, complex, but it's not. It's whole grains, sweet potatoes. That's my main thing is I do some whole grains, sweet potatoes, and fruit. I mean, fruit. You also get the H2O3. Fruit and vegetables. You also get H2O3 from it. It's like super hydration, right? So it's. I know it's hard to like try to wrap your mind around all of the possibilities, and um, a lot of people think eating healthy is too expensive. No, it's not. Actually, produce is like the cheapest way to eat. That's the thing. Nobody wants to eat fresh foods. Nobody wants to cook every night. You know, so that's why we offer the meal prepping service because we kind of do it ourselves. We we eat the leftovers and um, the extras from the weekend that we meal prep. We eat those throughout the week. Like we always have food, and they're always healthy options too. You know, so like I'm not saying go and try a meal prepping service, but if that's something that would help you, I think it's a very good idea. And if you could come to us, that would be amazing too, because we've really kind of figured out how to give you guys what you need to fuel your body, but also make it taste good, not dread eating the same thing every day. And that's what's kind of helped us like um, stay kind of consistent with eating right. But then again, you have this as a fighter, as somebody that has to weight cut, you have this problem that arises, which is you. It's like you almost your subconscious tries to convince you that like yeah you've done so good on your diet, let's eat this. Your stomach and your mind are always sending you signals to try to get some of that bad shit, more of it. It always wants more, always wants more. That's why you're more satiated when you eat healthy foods, because those calories are empty in all the bullshit that we eat these days, like, and it has so much of an effect on us than like so many different effects on us than people even realize. Like, no, you're not just getting fat, you're also getting cancer. You're also causing behavioral problems and disorders in your children when they're eating all of these dyes in their food. You know, I have a 1 year old baby, and we've been really trying to make sure that we give him everything that's natural, everything without dyes, without all these processed, refined ingredients. We try to give them as close to whole foods as we can. And honestly, I'm super happy in the the taste buds that he's developed, because I didn't have those taste buds when I was a kid. You know, I grew up on fucking corn, potatoes, hamburger helper, spaghetti, you know, white white people shit, you know. And so I've had to learn to like these different foods, and it hasn't been easy. But that is the cool thing about learning how to cook, is that you can start to cook these foods that you don't like, but you can cook them in a way that you actually like them. And now you're eating your greens, you're eating your complex carbohydrates, and things like that. So as as a fighter, it can really be difficult sometimes, as far as like staying 100% disciplined in your um, diet, um, until you disassociate that satisfaction. So that's something that I'm in the process of doing, because, like I said, the next fight's at 125. It's going to be hard. I want to be prepared, but I also don't want to starve, because in the past I've tried to starve myself, and I ended up gorging myself and then making the weight cut really hard. Uh, I think I've cut to 125 like 4 or 5 times, and it's been it's been the hardest, most mentally grueling things that I've ever had to endure. And that's saying a lot, because I've been through a lot of shit. So weight cutting, it's definitely a controversial thing. I think one championship. I think it's super cool that one championship does it that way, because for me it's kind of weird. I mean, my body is like in this weird stage of like, I'm a little smaller of a bantamweight, but I'm a really big flyweight. So I'm like kind of stuck in between this thing where it's like I eat right, and then I don't lean out. For some reason I can't get any smaller. It's like I continue to gain muscle and gain lean muscle, and I for some reason can't seem to get under 140 pounds, like, or even 142 pounds, like, hydrated, you know. So uh, this next camp, I'm definitely going to try to work on leaning out, but also not starving myself. So that's going to mean eating a lot of, and that's the cool thing about eating healthy foods, like especially like produce, vegetables, and fruits. You can eat almost as much of it as you want. You can satiate yourself. You can fill up when you eat that stuff and not gain weight. But when you start adding these processed foods, you're not only eating a lot, but you're also eating shit. So you're going to gain weight. You're never going to lose weight. So, you know, if you ever have like nutrition advice, like, it's not rocket science. If you need some advice, you know, just feel free to DM me or something, because I love helping people out, and especially when it comes to nutrition, because it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. Um, so I will be getting back into meal prepping again here real soon. I'm anticipating my professional debut might be like the end of March, maybe. Not 100% sure yet, but if it's not, it's okay. I kind of want to take the proper amount of time to prepare for this. I thought I was ready before the last fight, but there were so many variables. And like, this is something that I didn't say in the last podcast, but I had talked about my last fight. It was a little over a week ago. The weight cut was weird because 135 pounds, 136. It's actually really easy for me to make. I didn't have a problem sweating it off, getting that weight off. I had to work a bit, but I didn't have a problem getting the weight off. The problem was after I finished weight cutting and I weighed in, I couldn't eat. I could drink stuff, but I could not eat. I couldn't force myself to eat, dude. I was feeling sick every time I attempted to eat. And so, probably within the next 2 days after weigh ins, so the day of the fight and the next day, I probably only ate a little over 2,000 calories, a little less than 3. And that's just another variable that plays into the fight game. That, like, there's so many variables that, like, the fans don't understand. They 100% don't even realize how many of different variables there are when it comes to becoming getting into the ring. Not even the fight itself, but what it takes to get to the ring. That's harder than the fight itself. All the shit that you have to do, all the sacrifices, the time, the effort, the money, the blood, sweat, and tears. There are so many variables before you even get to the octagon that it's like a fight before the fight. I always say the weight cut is the fight before the fight, but that's the fight before the fight before the fight, because there's just so many things, like, and if you're like me, a lot of the, and a lot of the aspiring professional mixed martial artists are like me, and they don't, they're struggling. They're struggling whether it's financially or in other areas of their life, because it's hard to tie it all together, man. It is hard to dial it all in, as far as, like, your relationships with your family, your kids, your job, your training, your nutrition, and trying to take care of your mental at the same time it's a lot. So I feel like people, if they kind of understood that, and that's what this podcast is all about, trying to get out the point of view of the athlete, because you see everybody on TV, they're on TV, and you don't see the struggles. You don't see what's going through their mind as they're on this fucking journey through life. And that's what I want to give you guys. That's what I'm here to do, and trying to give you an insight on the way that an athlete thinks on their way up, because it's not fucking easy for me to go from somebody that never even played sports in school. I never played for any team, for anything, to become a professional athlete. The gap is immense. It's not easy, man. I've been through so much shit on this journey, but everything has made me stronger. Everything has made me a better person. I truly believe that in order to succeed, you have to fail, and even in order to fail, you have to sacrifice. Success is sacrifice, man. You're always going to be sacrificing something for your dreams. There's no other way to get better. You can't get better if you are never failing. If you're not failing, you're not trying. You know what I'm saying? So I've been through a lot of shit on this road, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and I'm grateful for it all. We were talking about weight cutting, though, in all of the different aspects that go into getting to the octagon. trying to find balance is like the most important thing that you can do. It's the hardest thing you can do, but finding that balance is going to um, make it a lot easier, man. It's sometimes it's hard to enjoy the journey, enjoy the road, because there's so much shit going on, and that's something that I constantly have to remind myself is to enjoy the journey and not, because if you're always thinking about the future, you're not going to enjoy what's happening now. You're going to miss things that are happening now. And if you're dwelling on the past, you can't focus on what you're doing now or the future. So I hope, at some point with this podcast that, I can help somebody in one way or another to maybe think differently, or inspire or motivate them to start their journey, because I started late, man. I was only, not only, but I was 23, 22, 23 when I started mixed martial arts. The gap was hard to close. It was. It was a struggle mentally to go in there every day and like not think that I'm so far behind. Like that was hard, so if I can help somebody that is starting out in their journey, or is, maybe hit a plateau in their career or in their life, if I can help somebody, that means everything to me. That's what this is all about. I'm hopefully can get some guests on here too, and have different perspectives on a lot of different things. So there's gonna be some good times to be had here, and I'm excited for the journey of podcasting. It's been super fun, and I've been rambling on for almost an hour now here, and we've talked about most of the things that I wanted to go over today, but there was one other topic I wanted to bring up, and that was like it's a story, but then it's also I wanted to talk about the next generation. The title of the stream is actually he stole my phone, so I tracked him down, and that's what's going to tie into the next generation. So I was at the YMCA a couple of weeks ago. This was like the day before I left for Arizona, 1,300 miles away. The day before I left, and I almost had a fucking heart attack, I swear. So, a couple of weeks ago, I'm at the YMCA. And it was the day before I left for my fight, so I was cutting a little bit of weight. I was just in the sauna, and then I came out of the sauna, and went to my locker to get some swim trunks on, and I was just gonna swim to cool off and then come back. Well, and then I was gonna leave. Well, when I went to my locker, there was a kid, a tall, light-skinned kid with dreads there, and I was like, "Excuse me," and I walked past him, and then I had to go past him again, so I was like, "Sorry." He's like, "You good, bro?" And I was like, "Okay." Like, I could tell he was young. He was younger. And so I go to the pool. In there, not even 10 minutes. Not even 10 minutes. Come back down. Kid's gone. My phone's gone. Out of the locker. I knew that it was him. I fucking knew it, because he was the only one there, and he seen me get in my locker. He knew I was going to the pool. He knew I didn't have any of my shit on me. So, I start freaking out. I'm in my wet swim trunks, no shirt, no anything. I run all the way up to the office. I'm like, "Yo, somebody just stole my fucking phone. I know what he looks like. I'm trying to give him a description of what he looks like, and the fucking guy's acting like he's retarded. Like, "Ugh, I need to know what I'm looking for. I just told you, a tall, light skinned kid with dreads." And you know, and he's like, oh, I'll look, and then I leave, and then I come back, and he's like, well, I need to know what I'm looking for. Like, all right, dude. I was like, I went back to the locker room, and there was a guy next to him, and I was like raving at this point. I was pissed. I'm just talking out loud. There's all these old guys, old naked guys in the fucking locker room, and I'm like raging as I'm grabbing all my shit. I'm like, stole my fucking phone, and this guy is like, oh, it was probably that kid that was right there. I was like, I just seen him walking outside, and I was like, what? Threw all my shit on, and I dipped. I go past the office or the front desk. I was like, yeah. So he just said that he was outside. I'm going to look for him. You can look it up, but I'm going to look for him. He's like, all right. Make sure you check back with us. Like, fuck you. You weren't helping shit. Like, yeah, acting like you didn't know what the hell to do. And so I jump in my car. I don't have my phone, so I can't call my girl. So I just jump in my car and I race home. I'm speeding home, get home, run in the door. Babe, check my location. Check my location on my phone right now. Somebody stole my fucking phone. Check my location. She's like, it's says it's right on Alpine and Newburgh, Alpine and Broadway. I'm like, dude, we're right here. It's like right couple blocks away from our house. I'm like, babe, come on. She has on a tie-dye onesie footy pajamas, and she just puts her fucking coat on and jumps in the car. Like, what a ride or die, man. Jumps in the car. We're like, oh shit, they're at the mall. Now they're at the mall. By the time we got to out of the neighborhood, they're at the mall. Pull up to the mall. I fucking jump out, grab my girl's phone. I'm looking at the GPS as I'm like just running around the mall. I'm looking, and just probably looking like a fucking maniac. My girl she's not running. She's like, power walking behind me. I obviously go way ahead. I'm looking at the phone. I'm running around. I'm like, what the fuck? It's right here. My girl comes up. She's like, you're not even, you've been chasing yourself around. You're not even, like, clicked on him. So I click on him. He's like fucking upstairs, 20 feet away. I run up the stairs. I'm like, I see him. I recognized him, but he's with his mom and his sister now, because obviously at the gym he wasn't with anybody except his brother. I seen his big brother, which he comes later. But so I see him. I go up the stairs. I see him. He's walking. I was like, hey. I was like, hey, you go to the YMCA? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, you just stole my shit. Give me my shit. You stole my fucking phone. He's like, I ain't steal your phone. I ain't steal shit. Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, his mom and his sister all loudmouth trying to be like, hey, what the fuck? He's 14 years old. Or I don't know if she said he was 14 or 15, whatever. But he was young. But the motherfucker, he had, like, facial hair. He looked like he was goddamn 18. And not just that, you're not supposed to be in the men's adult locker room unless you are 18. So that's what the front desk guy said. He's like, no, teenagers can't go in there. You have to be, we don't let kids in there. Or high schoolers in there. Shut the fuck up. He clearly was in there, 15 years old, stole my shit. So, I'm like, give me my shit. Like, my girl is right next to them as he's denying it. He's like, I was like, run your fucking pockets then. Run your pockets. He's like, hold up, I ain't running shit. Blah, blah, blah. It starts, bucking up and shit. And then my girl's like right there standing. Look, my phone says you are right here. There is nobody else around us. You have my fucking phone. And, so he starts getting all buck and, but he's backing up, like talking about, come on, let's go outside then. Let's go outside. And I was like, no, give me my shit. You're not fucking leaving until you give me my shit. And security comes up at this point, which is, they're two women, fucking almost, I mean, they're super nice. I'm glad that they came because, like, I didn't want to have to fight somebody because I was, of course, ready to, but I didn't want to have to because that's just, our kids were at home. My girl's mom was watching them for a minute while we went and looked for my phone. And so I just wasn't trying to turn in. I'm already a felon. I'm already got a fucking record, so like I don't need this shit. Just give me my fucking phone. So he's backing up, talking shit. Then out of nowhere, he slides my phone onto the display table and takes off fucking running. Books ass. Jumps down the fucking escalator, which isn't even working right now. Like, it's being serviced or something. So he fucking jumps over the thing, fucking flies down the escalator, and never seen him again. Well, he just left his mom and his sister right there, and I'm like, yeah, now you guys look fucking stupid, you fucking piece of shit. That's what I thought. And the mom and sister are obviously just looking stupid as fuck, but they're still like kind of talking shit, being loudmouth as fuck. And the police, the police were obviously called and they were on their way. Well, while I'm standing there with security, they're like, hey, the police are gonna want to talk to you for a minute, so just wait here. Well, the fucking yeah, in Macy's, here comes fucking all the way down the hall. I was like, oh, there's his big brother. Yep, he's coming to fight me. Yep. I just start backing up, and the fucking guy's coming straight towards me. He's like, you talking shit to my brother? What? Nah, I said, I didn't say shit to your brother about fighting. I said, if you stole my phone and you looked on my phone, you know what the fuck I do. You know I'm an MMA fighter, and I have a lot of followers and people that know that I'm an MMA fighter. So, I didn't have to say I know how to fight or I'll fight you or anything. And he just starts backing me down. He almost corners me because nobody's fucking stopping him. He's actually pretty big. I'm like, I'm just waiting. I'm like, he comes at me. I'm shooting a double leg. I'm fucking power doubling him across this fucking floor, dude. And but like he was backing me up, and I fucking hit the corner, and like my fight instincts kicked in. I fucking circled out, and then the security stopped him. Just like, I mean, he didn't do anything to me, but the security stopped him and was like, no, you guys go over here, wait for the police, blah blah. And so yeah, long story short, I got my phone back, and I thought it was such like an adrenaline rush trying to track this guy down myself. Like, I mean, how stupid can you be? That's how you know he's young. How stupid can you be? You're gonna steal a phone and then not turn the location off. Like, you thought I was some bitch ass white boy that was just gonna let you steal my shit. Nah, you fucked with the wrong one. You fucked with the wrong white boy, because I ain't letting nobody steal my shit. I ain't going out like that. I ain't no bitch. So, he got a fucking reality check there, like, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about, the next generation, because, I was pissed off at first, but if you listen to my first podcast, and if you haven't, you should, because, like, I went pretty in depth on myself and my life and the things that I've been through, and, being arrested and why I was getting arrested and all of that. So it's definitely an interesting story, so please recommend you go back and look at that. But I was pissed at first, and the next day I was like, you know what, when I was 15, what the fuck was I doing? I was stealing and fighting. I came to the realization, like, I can't judge this kid. He made a mistake. He thought he was slick. He found out he wasn't slick real quick. You know what I'm saying? Just like I did. And so I kind of felt bad for the things that I had said to him. I told him he's a fucking piece of shit. And then I was like, man, I was a piece of shit. So it's like you can't be so quick to judge somebody, because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know their situation, what they've been through, and why they're doing these things. So I kind of took a little bit of a reality check there since then, because it made me think of like how grateful I am for where I'm at, and like how I was able to grow from those shitty things that happened to me, those shitty things that I did, which caused me to have a shit time in my life, and that how I grew from them, and even the crazy thing is, like, I didn't even learn from the shit. When I originally got arrested for my felony and I spent 3 months in juvenile, I didn't learn my lesson. I didn't. That's the crazy thing. I didn't change my life until I found out I was having a son. And that's when everything changed for me. But all of my lessons have come in hindsight. Like, years later, like, I'm realizing these things, like, realizing when, what, where, and why of my life, like, I was doing those things, um and how I was able to learn from them. I try to learn from everything that I can, whether it's somebody dying, like my grandma dying when I was 16 years old, the person who raised me my entire life. It's a super sad thing when your rock dies, but what can you learn from that? What can you learn from their life, right? Not just what they taught you, but what they stood for, what they represented, what they what there's so many things that you could really take from a person, whether they're alive or not. And and when I was 16, I didn't know those things. I didn't take all of those positives from my grandma's life. I hated the world. I was mad at the world. Here I am again, feeling helpless, and I wasn't thinking that way, but now as an adult, like, I can reflect on her life and take so many values from that. Like, this is what I came from. This is what she stood for, you know, and that's what I want to represent too, you know? So just because somebody fucks up doesn't mean they're a piece of shit. It doesn't mean that they're not a good person, because there are so many people that have just made bad decisions, but they're good people, you know? And so I feel like I'm living proof of that, you know? I strive to try to be the best that I can be. And because of all the bad that I did, you know? So the next generation, man, it's kind of, it's a tricky one, because, you know, I have an 8, almost 9-year old, and watching him grow it's a fucking trip, you know? As much as you try to instill in them, you know, it seems like sometimes it's not enough. Like, they're just going to take their own path anyways, you know? I try really hard to set a good example for my sons, and I can always be better. I'm not perfect by any means, you know, but for the next generation, I feel like they're at a little bit of a disadvantage, because the fucking the hard part about being a parent is, like, I mean, for me, if you grew up poor, if you grew up with wanting, you know, you always want better for your kids, right? You always want to you always want them to have more. And the problem with that is when you give them that, they become entitled, and they become, you know, they don't have as much of a work ethic. They don't learn the same way. It's a fucking slippery slope, you know? There's a fine line between giving your kids better and also enabling them to be a less productive member of society, you know? So I think sports is probably the best thing for kids. I think as far as like teaching them a work ethic, I wish I would have played sports as a kid, but because I had to learn how to work hard myself, like myself. But when you find something that you're passionate about, and that's what I'm so excited to figure out what my son is going to love to do, what he's going to be super passionate about. Because when you're passionate about something, it becomes a activity. It's not, you don't dread doing it, you don't hate doing the work. It's not work when you love doing it, So I'm for the parents and the next generation, I encourage you to find what you're passionate about. Find something that you love to do and do it with every fiber of your being, because a lot of people never figure that out, and then they end up going through life regretting and living with regret and carrying that everywhere, and they never do as much as they could have done. So follow your dreams. Just the next generation is it's going to be interesting to watch grow. um, I think they're extremely smart, but they might not have the work ethic that the previous generation has had. Hopefully we can make up for that. um, like I said, the only way to learn is to fail, and grow is to fail. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of fail. If you're failing, you're trying. If you're not failing, you're not trying. So find what you're passionate about. Find what your kids are passionate about. Encourage them to do it as much as they can, because you don't want your kids to just go to fucking school, go to college, and become a robot. Every parent wants their kid to be a fucking astronaut or a movie star or something like that. But you have to find, it's part of your job to find out what your kid loves, doing, and what they're passionate about, so that you can give them increased access to that, and encourage them to continue and work harder and all the above, man. So as far as the phone story goes, don't be so quick to judge somebody, because you might look at them and see yourself in them too. You might think this guy's a piece of shit, but you don't know their whole life, and they could be just like you. They just made a mistake. So, I wish the best for that kid. I don't think he got arrested. He might have, but apparently he got banned from the mall. It's not like I wanted that either. If they ask me, if they find him, will you press charges? I don't think I want to. Because, like I said, I see myself in him. So, I'm not going to be petty like that and try to make him learn the hard way like I did. I'm pretty sure I scared him enough when I fucking ran up on him at the fucking mall. I said, you ain't think I would pull up on you, huh? That shit was hilarious. But yeah, I think that's gonna conclude the podcast today. We talked about a lot of shit. I rambled on for a long time, so thank you to everybody that subscribed during the stream. Please, if you could, hit that like button. Please subscribe. There's a lot more to come, and I'm super excited to continue doing this. Like, I've had so much fun, and I hope that you guys will comment, like, share, so that we can interact, and I'm not just talking to myself. Coming soon, we're gonna have guests. We're gonna do some different things, maybe a fight companion. So just be looking out. Hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't forget or don't miss another podcast. So with that being said, I'm gonna call it a night. It's Sunday. Time to get back to the grind tomorrow. Thank you all for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe, I love you all, and I will see you again soon. Deuces.